Hello and welcome. We're back in the kitchen for another session here that hopefully you will find interesting and perhaps even informative. We have a couple of things here to start with. People will quickly identify these as bananas. They require no real preparation except to peel them and eat them. You can incorporate them into baked goods. You can make ice cream from them. You can put them in smoothies. You can do any number of things with these, but as a food, they are ready to eat when they look like this. They require nothing of you. So now, I'll put those aside. So we have this thing. It looks similar to the banana, but many people will identify this as a plantain. Clearly, it is related to the banana, but it's very different. It is not ready to eat. You don't eat these in this form. You should not, cannot peel a plantain and eat it. It needs to be prepared. So, when is it ripe? Well, when a banana is green, some people eat it, and there's no bad outcome associated with that. It's a matter of taste. Some people like their bananas a little green. These are ripe, and then over time, they get older. And this is a banana that is ripe and perhaps a little overripe. And as it continues to age, if it doesn't get eaten, it'll change and may be unpalatable. It may be not what you want. So that's an older banana. This is a fresh banana that's ripe. And if I had a green one, that would be a green banana. So what about these? So these are also plantains. And the difference, other than just the size, is the amount of ripeness. So as a plantain moves from this to this, the chemistry inside the fruit changes the starch into sugars, and it becomes sweeter. So if you like your plantains not so sweet, eat them like this. If you would like your plantains sweeter, cook them when they're like this. If you want them sweet as candy, cook them when they're like this. The trouble with keeping plantains around, as they ripen, they can develop mold, they can start to decay. They can also dry out and become very unpalatable. So you have to kind of watch them. When I buy plantains, I look out for what I'm buying because it matters. Some of the plantains in the store don't feel very moist. They don't seem that they have much water in them, much moisture in them, and my experience, those drier plantains, as they ripen, tend to dry out and are not as useful. So I buy them very plump and robust with lots of water in them so that as they ripen, they don't dry out. So this one will be very sweet, these will be sweet, and this will be cooked on another day. So now we have a choice. If you're going to cook a plantain, how do you cook it? Different cultures have different methods. A friend of mine who was originally from Cuba explained to me how it is commonly cooked in Cuba. And that is on a grill with a little grease or fat on the grill. And it's cut into discs and then smashed with the spatula so that when it's cooked, It's creamy on the inside, crisp around the edge, and brown. And of course, the oil or animal fat in that cooking process makes it richer. So that was explained to me by an expat originally from Cuba. The plantains that I had from a restaurant where the people hearkened from Jamaica, those plantains were deep fried. They were delicious, but they had a lot of fat on them. You can roast them in an oven or use an air fryer. I have not done much of that. I don't particularly like that. I like to steam them. If you steam plantains, you add no fat. You let the fruit come through and speak for itself. And so that's my cooking method of choice. So let's cook a plantain. Better yet, let's cook several. So I'm going to score the skin on one side. Being very detail oriented, I tend to score it on the convexity. Is that right or wrong? Well, no, it's a choice. This makes it easier to get the skin off. Pardon me, makes it easier to get the skin off because the skin is not edible. So that's our prep work. We now put these in the steamer. Now, you don't have to have a steamer. You can use a pot with a steamer attachment. They're very inexpensive. They're readily available. I like this steamer. We steam a lot of things, and I find this very convenient because you can set it and forget it because it has a timer feature. If I boil it on the cooktop, then I have to pay attention. I have to set a timer, and so you don't need a steamer, but we have one for this purpose. Now, how long do you steam it? Well, this steamer heats up over a period of about 2 minutes, and so for the first 2 minutes, it does basically nothing. I've set the timer for 11 minutes. When it's done, we'll take it out, we'll take the skins off, and I'll show you the final product. And as usual, we're not going to sit here and wait for this to cook. I'll speed the video up so that you are not burdened by that process. But this is now heating up. I'm hearing some sounds. Do you serve it hot? Do you serve it cold? How do you serve this? Any way you want. However, there are some things to think about. First of all, hot, fresh out of the steamer, plantains are delicious. So eating them as a side dish or a dinner, hot, is pretty fabulous. Or you could chill it in the refrigerator and eat it cold. It has a very different texture. It seems different, but it's neither worse or better. It's just different. Now, from a biological point of view, it is different. So plantains contain a lot of starch. There are a lot of foods that have starch in them. Starch in its simplest form, when it is treated with digestive enzymes, starting in the mouth, can turn from starch into sugar, and then the sugar is absorbed. And many people have been concerned about that. Some starches are resistant to the enzymes to break them down. And these are called resistant starches. Resistant starches are in a variety of foods. You find them in oatmeal, sweet potato, plantains, to a lesser extent, potatoes. From a strategy point of view, resistant starch has an advantage to the person. Because from a biological point of view, instead of being immediately cleaved into sugars and absorbed as sugar and metabolized as sugar, resistant starch remains intact and goes through the digestive process. And from a biological point of view, it acts much like soluble fiber. It provides nutrients to the flora, to the microbes that live in our GI tract. And those nutrients for the microorganisms in the gut provide a benefit to us, because soluble fiber and resistant starch going into the intestine, as the microbes break them down, break these starch and fiber down into smaller molecules, they break them down into acetate, butyrate, propionate. These are called short-chain fatty acids. Okay, I get it. You don't talk about chemistry in the kitchen, do you? Well, actually you can. You can do anything in a kitchen. You can do projects, you can do homework, you can make food, you can have parties, you can have long conversations. Kitchens are wonderful places, and it's a great place to talk about chemistry. Short-chain fatty acids, acetate, propionate, and butyrate, are good for us. And our gut flora will make those for us if we give it good food. If the gut flora is seeing a lot of animal product and ultra-processed foods, it won't make those wonderful short-chain fatty acids nearly as much compared to the opportunity that we get from soluble fiber and resistant starch. So this is useful to us to select our food so that we get the benefit from the food. The resistant starch of plantains, all of these vegetables that I talked about, plantains, sweet potato, the resistant starch is more resistant if it is chilled. So the advantage to you, if you cook this, sure, eat it while it's hot, it's delicious. But if you chill some down and eat it cold, the resistant starch is more resistant to breakdown and is likely to result in more benefit to you compared to eating it hot. I make no rule. I eat it hot, I eat it cold. But these are things that we can talk about as we make food choices. The machine is working. It's starting to smell a bit like plantains. These are done. So these turned out very well. There's one area here where the plantain has dried out a bit. So I will trim that off. The rest of these turned out beautifully. You can see it looks very much like a piece of banana, but this is plantain. It's been cooked for about 10 minutes. It's done. It's very delicious. You can, if you're not familiar with plantain and if it's available to you, I encourage people to get plantain. It's a wonderful food. It's a great source of fiber, which, as we discussed, is in the form of resistant starch. A lot of it is resistant starch. Lots of nutrients, not a huge amount of calories. This is good food. So, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this. In the future, hopefully you'll join us again. We have lots of videos on different foods, which hopefully you'll find very interesting.